Very good. Matt, good job. Okay. Well, good morning once again. Here joined by my emergency response team, public safety team across the board, including partner Councilman King, who is here. Looking for you over there. Thank you so much, Councilman, for joining us this morning. As you all know, a tornado touched down yesterday evening in Algiers shortly before 4 p.m. Central Standard Time and moved very quickly through Orleans Parish. We know that this tornado, in regards to hitting the ground, not only in Orleans Parish, but also St. Charles, St. Bernard, and Jefferson parishes. We can never in any way predict exactly where a storm will occur or hit, but all we can do is be prepared, and that is something that your public safety team, the City of New Orleans, we were prepared, and that absolutely was demonstrated on the ground in response to the tornado hitting our community in Algiers. The City of New Orleans demonstrated very strong leadership, leaning in on and with one another, tight coordination and communication, always key across the board. Early notifications were sent to schools and businesses to cease operations, get home, and stay home safely. Prior to, I would say the day before, we began to do outreach to our schools and to our businesses and thinking about what we would do again with City Hall and our city employees. Safety is always key and the top priority in response to whatever comes our way. DPW crews worked extended hours throughout the evening leading up to the storm and after. Transition asphalt crews to clean catch basins. We had about 3 vac crews assigned throughout the city. We quickly activated our EOC in coordination with public safety across the board and our infrastructure partners. Our crews immediately shifted to responding to requests and clearing rights of ways after the tornado hit. I just want to thank all of our people for being on the ground. You're going to hear from many of our partners here this morning, but again, swift coordination on the ground, and we just saw immediate responses and relief that were extended. Extensive damage to utility and power lines. Entergy immediately started working to restore power to those impacted. Very shortly after, we did see power being restored. We had approximately 11,000 customers impacted, and as of right now, well, prior to this, I had my briefing, we were at 664 that were currently without power. I was told that by 10 p.m. this evening, we should have power restored to all customers. We have seen approximately 21 tornadoes touch down in Louisiana over the past 2 days. So the state, of course, is in pursuit of a public assistance for damages on public facilities. This is something that the City of New Orleans is doing right now, assessing damage as we started last evening, early this morning, and that will continue throughout the day. Again, we will continue to provide updates as necessary, and we encourage all residents to report damages to 211 or damage.la.gov. This is a centralized effort so that we can ensure that we have assessments throughout not only Orleans Parish, but of course the state, throughout the state. But we want our residents and our businesses to report accordingly so that, again, we have all accurate information so that would yield the best response that's needed. The Corps of Engineers, Colonel Bailey, has provided blue tarps to the City of New Orleans, and as we always do, we make those available to our council members to work with residents and businesses on the ground. So that will soon be activated. At this time, I want to ask my Director of Homeland Security, Colin Arnold, to come forward to give us more information, and then you will hear from our partners one by one, and of course, closing it out with questions and answers, and then we will move along. So with that, Colin, come forward. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for your leadership in this. We started talking about this, with the National Weather Service started giving us what turned out ultimately to be very accurate forecasting on this. They said from the beginning it was, kind of going to be an all-day issue with weather, but from 4 to 6 p.m. yesterday was going to be the time, and it was. And so I'd like to say right off the bat, thank you. Thank you to the media. Thank you to our teams, and really thank you to the public because you listened. And really, this is not our first rodeo. We've been through this before, whether it's hurricane season, a very similar tornado last March. These are the types of things that, from one day to another can occur. And I really think that the difference maker, and I've seen it in other reporting and from other parishes as well, including Jefferson, President Chang, these are the types of decisions early on and communications that is the whole point behind NOLA Ready. It's the whole point behind, trying to get with the media as soon as possible to, impart what the message is and how dangerous that this could be, and it was dangerous. And people took that to heart and they took heed with that warning. So thank you to everyone that was involved in that. We started, NOSEP obviously activated our Emergency Operations Center last night. There's never a time to do good renovations in your EOC, but we're actually renovating our EOC right now. So, we had some challenges there that we addressed, I think, very well. We had all our partners. We were able to still conduct the business and really communicate in a way that I think even compared to other incidents and disasters we had was very good. And so I'm very appreciative of that. We are doing damage assessments. It started last night. Those will continue on today. There's several different tracks of assessment that are going on. You've got the Weather Service out there actually doing the meteorological assessment on this, and they'll be able to give us an idea probably by the end of the day about, indeed we do believe this was a tornado, but they'll confirm that, and then the strength of that. They'll be able to give us some initial thoughts today, and then there'll be a final report within, a week or two, typically is how long that takes. But having talked to them, they already have finished in Arabi and are moving across the river to Algiers. And they've got another team that is moving from St. Charles to Jefferson in. So they kind of meet in the middle, ideally. And that's what they're doing right now. Damage assessments are continuing both on our end for individual structures and residences, as well as public facilities. We'll have several tracks of our departments going out and looking with safety and permits at our public facilities to check for any damage there. This is important because the state has informed us that over the last 2 days there's been 21 tornado touchdowns in Louisiana. So there is a movement and a mechanism towards getting, having to amplify this potentially to the federal level in a Stafford Act declaration. Accordingly, we will declare disaster in the city based on the damage that we have seen. Again, this is not really as much of a response declaration as it is looking at the impacts that we experience, particularly in Algiers and particularly in the neighborhoods off General Meyer. Having said that, the power's coming back on, but we still have some street lights and other things out. I think it bears to remind everyone, treat all those as a four-way stop. We are putting out temporary stop signs, particularly at General Meyer and Odeon. We'll be working with council members Moreno and King to distribute tarps to folks that are impacted by that. Thank you to the National Guard for doing that. The Southeast Louisiana Legal Services Disaster Legal Hotline is always available, and they are up and running for this event at 844-244-7871. Again, I talked about damage. One of the things that can really help us both locally and at the state, because we coordinate on all this, is for individual homeowners and business owners, please report your damage to damage.la.gov. I'll say it again, damage.la.gov. Incredibly important. You can download photographs. This is for any type of structure. It does not include vehicles. There's very clear instructions on what to do, but the list that is populated by this is used for consideration in individual assistance and other programs that are going to be available through FEMA, through the SBA, and some of those other things. Imagine this is somewhat of kind of an encapsulated hurricane type incident. This is something that popped up yesterday. We have affected residents, and we want to address that. We are standing up, and there's work to do on this. But, you know, and it goes beyond what we do as a city, but also with a lot of our vendors that provide us with these emergency alerting systems. Spanish translation. I mean, it's something that we are really key on working on. We are going to stand up Spanish translations for anyone in the city who needs them. For anyone who speaks Spanish or knows someone who speaks Spanish as a primary language, please text Espanol to 77295. That's Espanol to 77295. We have a lot of volunteer and donation partners that are active in disasters, what we call VOADs, that are queuing up right now. They're lining up. They want to help. We'll be setting up an emergency resource center. It's going to be in Algiers. It will either be at Morris XF Jeff Auditorium, or it will be at the Arthur Monday Center. We're trying to figure out what the best situation is for the facility to do that. There we will have services, access to services, and we really encourage people that were affected by this tornado to use that. Our goal is to have that set up by 1 p.m. today, and that's what we're working on right now. And again, the Emergency Resource Center concept is something that we developed out of IDA, but as we mentioned before, it can be used in any type of situation. So again, part of the reason why this communication worked, again, is NOLA Ready. It's the, you know, texting NOLA Ready to 77295. It takes seconds to do. It's going to get you the alerts locally that we send out. Obviously, the wireless emergency alert that the National Weather sends out, the glorious, horrifying sound that you get through your phone, don't turn those off. We get sometimes people saying, I don't want to get irritated by these things, Amber Alerts and things. They're all important and indeed life-saving. You know, in some cases, if it's an Amber Alert, it might be life-saving for that individual, that child, that elder. I will say that for a tornado, it can save thousands of lives, those alerts. There is something buried deep in your phone where you can turn those off. I think you have to search the internet to find it. Don't do it. You know, we're going to amplify those messages as well through NOLA Ready, so sign up, because people talk a lot about sirens. Sirens in rural areas are great. Sirens near chemical plants and facilities like that are a necessity. Sirens in the city we can look at, in an urban area we can look at, but the best thing right now is utilizing the technology and utilizing your phone. And that's how people are going to get this message right away. And so I really encourage that. Again, text NOLA Ready to 77295. Thank you, and I'll have Chief Ferguson come up and talk for NOPD.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Colin. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mayor. Thank you for your leadership. I want to commend the citizens of the city of New Orleans for doing just that, adhering to the information that was being disseminated. It helped us to not have any fatalities. I truly believe that. I believe that by everyone cooperating with us and listening to what the experts had to say with regards to this weather event, we really dodged a bullet. The New Orleans Police Department, we suspended our services as the weather deteriorated, and as soon as we could, we started back again. And those times varied, of course, from assignment to assignment or district to district. All districts specifically in Algiers, near the intersection of General and the 1400 block of Tyler, we saw some significant impact. Businesses, residences, churches, all were damaged. Some collapsed. We had 5 individuals injured as a result of this event. 3 were transported to UMC, and 2 were transported to Oshner West Bank. All are either have been treated and discharged. We have 1 that was seriously injured, and she is currently still in the hospital, but she is stabilized. As we started back with our deployment, we began our windshield assessments. We redeployed some assets, meaning our detective bureau supported the 4th District. We leaned on Homeland Security with stop signs, lightings, and things of that nature. I want to thank LSP for their assistance. They quickly responded. I want to thank Parkway. I want to thank DOTD. I want to thank DPW. They were out there last night as I was on scene with many of our public safety partners last night. They were Johnny on the spot responding and clearing these highways and streets so that we can respond as necessary as a public safety team. We continue to assess the impact. We personally, as the department, are assessing our facilities for damage at this time. We are also asking our officers, our employees, to let us know if there are any, if anyone has sustained any significant or had any significant impact to their personal well-being, their personal houses and things of that nature. We have identified one officer thus far, but we will continue to do that assessment as well as assess our facilities. But again, kudos to the city of New Orleans, kudos to this public safety team for getting the message out early enough, and our citizens as well as visitors responding appropriately, and we dodged the bullet without having any fatalities. And that is all we have for now. As we get more, we'll report it out to you.
Thank you, Chief.
Next up will be Chief Nelson.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor. I'll start by just recapping the actions of the New Orleans Fire Department yesterday related to the tornado. About 4:08 p.m., we got dispatched on 2 separate calls to an overturned vehicle at West Bank Expressway and to the 1400 block of Tida to what turned out to be tornado damage. The companies on the scene confirmed that a tornado had touched down and started assessing the situation and looking for damaged structures. They assisted with the removal of 1 injured civilian that was transported by New Orleans EMS. Our companies conducted primary and secondary searches of all the damaged structures to identify any trapped individuals. They made sure that all the utilities were disconnected in the area. Energy responded quickly. We had a couple of high-pressure gas lines in the area that were leaking that energy responded quickly to shut off. All in all, from our assessments yesterday, damaged structures-wise, there were 12 damaged structures identified in the 1400 block of Tida, with 4 being major and 8 having minor damage. There were 2 damaged commercial structures on the corners of Odeon and General Maya Avenue. There was 1 damaged structure on Merle Street with major roof damage, and 12 homes identified with minor damage on Wilt Street and DeArmor Street. Our companies also, we reached out to our partners in St. Bernard to see if they needed assistance. They said they were doing good, but we coordinated with them to do a windshield survey of the parish line area between the Lower Ninth Ward and St. Bernard Parish, just to see if there was any other damage that wasn't previously identified. Also, at 7:47 p.m., we had a 1 alarm fire at 1121 Flanders Avenue that's under investigation but does not appear to be tornado-related. As Chief Ferguson mentioned, EMS was on the scene doing a fantastic job. Energy, kudos to NOPD helping us to secure the perimeter along with LSP, code enforcement, park and parkways, and the Red Cross who responded to assist with displaced residents. You know, you've heard the mayor talk about it, Director Arnold, Chief Ferguson. This was a messaging win. This was a communications win for the city and for the public. The message got out early. People heeded the warning, and we could have saw a much larger loss of life if people would have been out and about and did not heed that warning. So I just want to reemphasize, Colin touched on it. He touches on it all of the time. But if you sign up for NOLA Ready, you will get the latest information as we are getting it, so you can be informed and you can take the proper action. But again, this was a good result for the city because of the communications, and it definitely helped so that we did not see more damage and loss of life. So that's all I have. Thank you. Next up will be Chief Chris Keller from New Orleans EMS.
Thank you, Chief. We have over 280,000 residents that are signed up for NOLA Ready and who did receive the notices.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Chief Nelson. So yesterday afternoon, New Orleans EMS stepped up our response by bringing in extra staffing to staff 2 high water vehicles with water rescue trained technicians. As our operations had kind of shut down because administration had closed business by 1300, all of our operations personnel stepped up to really prepare for the weather event. There were no high water assets utilized during yesterday's event. There was only some minor surface level flooding occurred, which resolved relatively quickly as the storms passed through the area. We did respond to the tornado touchdown in Algiers along Tida Street and Craft Place. We were advised of the touchdown at 1618 and by 17:14, we had transported 3 patients to the trauma center off of Tida. And at 16:20, we were notified of the touchdown on Craft Place, and we had transported 2 additional patients to Ochsner West Bank. And of note, between the time the tornado touched down and the time all the patients were at the hospital was less than 60 minutes. This is a stellar job by our staff, our operations staff at EMS. I commend our EMTs, our advanced EMTs, and our paramedics for doing a stellar job yesterday. They responded throughout the duration of the weather event. At no times were any EMS responses stopped during the entire weather event. So our brave men and women of EMS, kudos to them. A fantastic job, and I'm honored to be a part of this team. I also thank police and fire for the coordinated response, which allows us to do our job safely and to treat these citizens that were injured. And there was one critically, as Chief Ferguson mentioned earlier, and I believe hopefully that she'll be coming from the hospital at some point soon. The remaining events saw little to no effects from inclement weather throughout the rest of the evening, and we're back to business as usual, so thank you. Up next is Executive Director Morris with OPCD. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to start by talk about our experience from Hurricane Ida, where the city of New Orleans experienced a monumental 911 outage for over 12 hours. And the mayor, the administration, and OPCD committed to doing everything in our power to make sure that never, ever happened again. And yesterday, that promise was tested and delivered. We did not have a single instance of 911 outage in the city of New Orleans. We did not have a single instance of degradation in our public safety network, the FirstNet network. None of our computer systems were brought down. The system was built. We made some significant investment to ensure that they remained available for the residents, and yesterday that was the case. 2 hours prior to the storm entering the area, the agency staffing level elevated to standby. That meant everybody that was at work was going to be at work until the storm passed the area. Again, the public safety team behind you saw a 100% increase in activity during the storm. We normally take about 50 911 calls every hour. We took over 115 calls an hour for a 3-hour period, so we were bumping. There were over 250 unique public safety responses to various emergencies throughout the city of New Orleans, but I will say it's been the most well-coordinated. Everyone knew where everybody was, accountability was in place, and this team really is second to none. As a reminder to residents, as the daylight has come, now we can really take a good look. If you see a downed tree blocking a roadway, a street light that's malfunctioning, a pole that is down, I cannot stress how important it is you call and report those to 311. And you can text 311 by texting 311 yes. You can visit NOAA.gov/311, or of course, if you have to, you can call us 24 hours a day. It's really important that we get the information to the various city departments so they can provide a remedy to that issue and get us back to normal as quickly as possible. Again, thank you to the heroes at OPCD who showed up yesterday like I do every single day, and to this amazing public safety team. And Mayor, thank you for your leadership. It was a long night for all of us, but you were with us every step of the way, so thank you.
And reiterate 311 again, we had fewer calls than anticipated, but just to...
Yeah, so traditionally during storm events, we get inundated with downed trees and flooded catch basins. This morning, we only had 26 calls, where the previous storms we've had hundreds the next morning. And so that is a testament to the infrastructure team work to get it and get catch basins cleaned beforehand, making sure that trees are addressed before the storm comes, the residents reporting to us before the storm comes. And so the data don't lie. It tells a story, right? A significant tornado touched our parish and had a very minimal impact to infrastructure damage that we can see so far. So, Mayor, thank you for that. And next would be Director Michael Karam from Parks and Parkway.
Thank you, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. The Department of Parks and Parkways Forestry Division was ready to respond to emergencies after yesterday's wind event and responded at approximately 7 o'clock to Tida Street in Algiers, and was able to respond rather quickly due to the quick turnaround of the cutoff of gas and electricity by Entergy. As Director Morris mentioned, not too many calls yesterday evening, but our crews were able to respond rather quickly and are out on the scene now on Tida and Wilts Drive in Algiers, responding to a number of calls for the clearance of roadways and the right-of-way. Our crews will continue to work with the infrastructure team. Parks and Parkways will work with sanitation and public works to continue to clear the road right-of-way, and we'll continue assessments throughout the day and likely into the weekend. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Matt Torrey. All right. Director of Sanitation, Matt Torrey.
Thanks, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. Sanitation crews mobilized this morning and immediately began removing debris from the right-of-way. I want to, provide some information for residents as they begin to take inventory of their homes and prepare and remove debris and bring it to the right-of-way. So only debris generated by the December 14th tornado is eligible for collection by the city. Debris should be placed curbside in the area between the sidewalk and the curb for collection by the city. Debris piles are not to be placed on neutral grounds, next to utility poles, trees, mailboxes, electric or water meters, fire hydrants, or blocking any storm drains or the street right-of-way as well. Any work done by contractors, including demolition, is ineligible for debris removal services by the city. Property owners are reminded that they're responsible for the removal of debris and for associated with those activities. We also want to remind residents as well that regular household garbage and recycling collection will be picked up on their normal collection day, and for folks in Algiers, that's on Monday. So our crews will continue to be working daily, sun up to sundown until the debris is collected, and we'll work collaboratively with residents to make sure that we're getting them back in good working order at their households. Thank you.
And Matt, just remind just once again of where not to place debris.
Absolutely. So again, stressing debris should only be placed in the area in between the sidewalk and the curb. In front of your household, you want to avoid placing it near public infrastructure assets. So it should never be placed on the neutral ground of roadways. We do not want it placed near trees, mailboxes, utility poles, fire hydrants, anything that may inadvertently be impacted via the debris collection activity. So it's important that debris is placed free of those assets so that no heavy equipment doesn't do any inadvertent damage to those things. And we appreciate residents' cooperation with that. Thank you, Mayor.
So much. Thank you so much, Madam. I'm going to ask Mr. Thomas Mulligan, who is our Deputy CEO of the Office of Business and External Services. Tom?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, everyone. Personnel from the Office of Business and External Services responded to this incident beginning yesterday afternoon. Inspectors from the Departments of Safety and Permits and Code Enforcement conducted an initial assessment of the damage last night. We have at least 24 structures with moderate damage. This is on Titus Street, De Armas, Odeon, General Meyer, and other thoroughfares in that area. We do have major damage on the 1400 block of Titus Street and the 1100 block of South Lawn Boulevard. We will be conducting emergency abatement operations, including demolition on those imminent dangers to life, health, property, or public safety beginning today. So we'll be processing those cases immediately, and we'll have demolition started shortly. I also want to mention our Office of Business and our Office of Economic Development, which has been reaching out to affected business owners this morning. Happily, the responses we've received have been positive. There has been an impact on business operations, but it's been minimal, and happily personnel have been kept safe. And I again want to credit that to the robustness of our communications infrastructure. The word got out about the severity of this storm, and people took those warnings seriously, and that's always the most important thing. Business owners and their employees were kept safe, and they're going to immediately be able to return to provide their services to the community. I do, however, want to encourage any business owners or employees who have been affected by this storm to call the Office of Economic Development. The number there is 504-658-4293. Again, 504-658-4293. We have a number of ways we can support local businesses, and we want to be sure we do that as we recover in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. And just to add on the business side, I want to add the housing side. So the Office of Community Development is also going to be prepared to activate any resources to help our residents, homeowners as well. With that, I'm going to ask Ms. Sarah Proteus, our Director, Interim Director of the Department of Public Works, to come forth, and then we will hear from our councilman.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your leadership. Sarah McLaughlin-Porteous, I'm Chief of Staff for Infrastructure and Operations and currently the Acting Director for the Department of Public Works. And I want to begin by thanking all of the women and men from the Departments of Sanitation, Parks and Parkways, and Public Works, and particularly the field crews who've been out working ahead of the event and also following the event to get us back to where we need to be. So I want to thank them for that. On behalf of DPW, so in preparation for this severe weather event, our Department of Public Works project managers work very closely with all of the contractors who are working on the more than 50 projects we have going on around the city, just to make sure that those project sites were buttoned up ahead of the storm. And I want to thank the contractors, I want to thank the project managers for all their work to do that, because it was a very important part of the preparation process. Additionally, our Department of Public Works maintenance crews were out working extended hours, as the mayor mentioned, ahead of the storm. We had 3 vac truck crews working yesterday, clearing catch basins and lateral lines in areas where we see that are flood prone. They're working on St. Charles, on Carrollton, on Broad Street, just areas where we've seen standing water in the past. And I think that certainly it helped us to be prepared for the event. We also transitioned our asphalt dump truck crews to support those operations and clear in front of catch basins. Today, as you heard from both Matt and Mike, our Department of Public Works maintenance crews are supporting sanitation in parks and parkways on the West Bank. We have heavy equipment out there to help with debris removal. We also have a vac truck crew working on the East Bank. So if you do see water standing near a catch basin, please do report that so we can send our vac truck crew to go out and address it. As Colin mentioned, our traffic engineering department is in the process of placing a temporary stop sign at General Meyer and Odeon, if that's not in place already. And once the debris has been removed, our traffic engineering will go out and continue their assessments of street lights that are out, traffic signals that are down, and any signs that are out. But please, if you see those, do report them to 311 so we can make sure to get them addressed. Again, thanks, Mayor, to the leadership, thanks to the public safety team, and everybody who's been part of the preparation and response to this event.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Now we'll hear from Councilman King, who was activated very quickly after the tornado and up until the morning. So thank you, Councilman.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning. Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to acknowledge the neighborhood, the community that was devastated by this storm. It's called McClendonville, also referred to as Tunisburg. It's a very close-knit community, and everyone's out there today looking out for one another, helping each other clean up, cooking for one another, and just being that support that we all need in this time of need. I want to thank everyone who called and emailed and texted me in my office last night, who responded to the scene last night. It was amazing to see so many people out last night with very limited visibility and the inclement weather, out working and pulling together. I ran into Police Chief Ferguson out there, telling people, hey, get inside. It's not quite safe to come out. Captain Contreras of the 4th District. I was with Constable Edwin Shardy. We also patrolled the Algiers Point neighborhood that had a lot of power outages. Excuse me. State Rep Delisha Boyd was also on the ground, just showing everybody that we care for you and we are here. This morning was met with, again, State Rep Delisha Boyd. Congressman Carter's team was out there. More NOPD officers, sanitations, public works, code enforcement, Entergy. I don't want to keep going on, but I don't want to miss anybody. But it was a complete team effort. Everyone was deployed right away to get people's lives back together as soon as possible. And to those people in the McClendonville, Tunisburg community, just want you to know that everyone here behind you is with you, and those that you don't see, we're also working behind the scenes to make sure you get your lives put back together as soon as possible. And again, just thank everybody for coming together, and thank you, Madam Mayor, for your leadership in this trying time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Yes, sir. Come on.
Thank you, Mayor. You've heard several locations or numerous locations in which
work is being done right now, cleanup and things of that nature. And we definitely appreciate the love and the resiliency that our city has. But at this time, I'm just asking if you do not have to be in that neighborhood, if you do not have to go into those impacted areas, do not go there. Allow us to do our jobs so that we can safely secure that area so that, as the councilman said, people can get their lives back together again. But if there is no reason for you to be there, please do not go into these areas, and let us do our job so that everyone can have a safe and healthy recovery. Thank you.
Very good. On that note, John.
Can we review the structural damage again? How many structures were damaged, what types that we know so far?
So Tom gave you a thorough overview of that. I'll ask him to come back and just rattle off those for you. Tom?
So we'll have a fuller understanding of the complete scope of damage after we're able to do the assessment today. We did conduct a preliminary assessment last night, which included at least 24 moderately damaged structures, including St. Mark's Church, is it? Destroyed on Wilkes.
St. Mark's is destroyed?
Yes, on Welch Street, Welch Lane.
The other streets I'll mention, Taita, South Lawn Boulevard, De Armas, Odeon, General Meyer. One thing, we certainly have identified structures that require emergency demolition because of the extent of the damage. Today, we're doing a more in-depth investigation with our building inspectors because we could have a home, say, that doesn't look so bad from the outside, but upon closer inspection does meet the criteria of imminent danger. So today is really going to be critical to identify those other structures that maybe don't have the most apparent damage, but meet the danger criteria. But I'd say at least 24 structures with moderate damage and a major damage requiring emergency abatement, approximately half dozen structures identified at this time on Taita and South Lawn Boulevard.
The half dozen are just at that location you just mentioned?
Across those two streets. Yeah.
Any other questions? Colin, old-timers don't remember this many tornadoes hitting our area.
Because it wasn't.
Shift to this Dixie tornado alley trend lately. What, in your line of work in the emergency operations business, can we expect more of this, do you think, in the years ahead? Any idea how long this trend is expected?
The data's out there. I think so, and I think that we were looking at the tracks of both, obviously the two tornadoes this year, March 22nd and this one last night, and even compared it back to November 2017 when we had the New Orleans East tornado, and they all had a similar track and kind of hook that came up over the river, went out east. Fortunately, this one, after, it did its damage in Algiers, it jumped the river, it got into St. Bernard, into, a similar area, Friscoville, that they had damage from the March one, and then tended to go out to the east to the marsh. So, we were fortunate in that regard. But, there's a lot of things going on. There's climate change, there's sea level rise, and just, some of the same weather conditions that are producing, stronger hurricanes and making hurricane seasons above average and a little bit more unpredictable are the same things that drive severe weather, around this country, in our area, and really around the world. So,
Speak to our investments that we're making and have made, like WebSTEM and the light weather STEM.
Yep.
Because we know this isn't slowing down.
Yeah, it's not slowing down, and one of the things, and I'll promote it, is weatherwise.nola.gov. We worked with a company to install weather stations around the city. That was active last night, and no damage to those stations. They have webcams on them that show the horizon in that area. They have 20, 30 different data points, archived weather. And look, we're using these to do a lot of our planning for special events and other, and for incidents like this, because it's important to have an idea of what's coming and then also be able to look back and look at the record and see, what's out there and what we've done. And so that weather STEM project, weatherwise.nola.gov, is a huge component of this. I think our communication strategy in general with trying to promote NOLA Ready, Today there's work being done on a new radio system for all of our non-public safety, what I'll call responders as well, our infrastructure personnel. We're replacing their radio system because we know that, look, over the last 4.5, 5 years, we've been touched by these types of incidents, weather incidents over and over and over again, and it's an issue. And so, we're going to have to continue to communicate with the public and invest in those things that help us kind of figure out the weather, because it's very difficult to predict. I think they did a great job yesterday, as I mentioned earlier, but sometimes it's going to be a little less a little less sure in some of these forecasts, and we don't want to miss those things.
Can you provide a little bit more detail about what's going to be available at the resource center you mentioned earlier, like what people get there?
Yep, we're going to do, we're setting up food right now. We'll obviously have water. There'll be tarp availability, and that will be, and we'd ask that's restricted to the folks that really need that. I think we're going to work with Councilmember King to get out there actually into that neighborhood and get those tarps out to folks that we see on the ground. But we'll have some availability for tarps there. We're going to coordinate some services, probably Southeast Legal Services, as soon as we can get a hold of and coordinate with like SBA. We'll get them in there as well. And you never know. We might get some cultural significant type of groups, like maybe some music or something over there, for the residents, because we find that really helps with people. Look, anxiety is a real thing, and people are stressed, trauma, and that's what we like to do with these centers. Obviously, when you do something like a hurricane, it's much bigger. It's going to be, ice and MREs and a lot of the things, but this one we'll tailor it towards the needs of those residents that are affected.
And that's why the assessments are just critical. As mentioned, we have not determined. We know 2 areas, whether that's Monday Center or Morris FS Jess. We will clarify that shortly after this press conference. That's why these assessments are so critical, but we'll get you the information as soon as we have confirmed.
Any more questions? Just one more thing. So many people lost a lot so close to Christmas. Words of encouragement for the people of Algiers right now?
Well, you know what? These are our residents, our people, and we're wanting to continue to meet them where they are. Absolutely, no time is a good time, but especially during the holidays, when we're not only, trying to come together and show the love to one another, but also, during holidays, it reminds you of the trauma that we've experienced in our community kind of resurfaces, because it's still there. And so we're wanting to do a holistic approach to our families, to our residents, to make sure that they understand that they are not forgotten. I think that you've heard it loud and clear even from our councilman, who has been boots on the ground and wanting to do those thorough assessments to those families so that we can tailor our response specifically and be more intentional about what that outreach needs to look like, that we show up. And not only that, it really speaks to, when I say meet people where they are, that's what we mean. So those individual assessments will bear greater fruit in terms of how we can meet the needs of our people. Thank you.
Last question, WWL. Tornado sirens, we're getting some folks from the 9th Ward asking about tornado sirens in that area.
It's a great question. So we are, since Ida, we've been participating in a state Representative Matt Willard, a state legislature working group with parishes around the area about both taking up the issue of contraflow and the notifications that go around that, because we know there were questions about that after Ida. And what has come out of that meeting as well, from probably some of the same people, is sirens. Certainly something that we would like to look at and investigate further. As I said, I think we're at a point in technology, particularly in large cities, where we can get that word out very quickly to someone's device, which everyone has their phone on them. I think that there is merit in sirens. It's something that we've talked about with some of our neighboring parishes, like St. Bernard, like St. Charles. They have sirens there. They also have a lot of infrastructure and chemical and types of plants. And so those things kind of come hand in hand there. It's definitely something that we can look at. And if I can just say one thing, Sean, Cool Joe, that's my friend. Last night, if you can't tell, he loves this city, and he loves Algiers. And he was calling me all night, and he like a papa bear. I'm going to miss him a lot, and it made me realize, just how much he's invested in his community. So, sorry, side note, but thank you. Thank you, Cool Joe.
It matters. Leadership matters. Director,
Yeah.
give us some intel on that mental health piece.
Yeah, so throughout the nation, the last few days, weeks, we have seen some significant incidents where mental health have taken some people from us. And this traumatic incident our community experienced, on top of it being the holidays, and it's okay to not be okay. And we have a resource available to you. So what we just, if you are one that you are experiencing a mental health crisis, you have a family member that's experiencing a mental health crisis, 988 is now available 24 hours a day. It is confidential, and they will get you to the resources that you need. Life is always better with you here, right? So please, 988, reach out, and then if they need us to come, then they will call us. But there is a service available across the country now, 24 hours a day, where licensed clinicians can help you get through this moment in crisis. 988 is just a reminder. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyrell. Thank you very much.